Today I'm just going to walk you through making the Tunisian knit stitch socks. I started with some sock yarn that is actually DK weight. It is by Allie of Herds of Cat, and this is Road Trip sock yarn. And this is a little different because it's DK weight, it's not sock weight. And so the stitches, number of stitches, and the crochet hook are done accordingly. We need a double-ended crochet hook. We're going to be working in the round and flat. This one was a 6.0 that I used. I'm demonstrating with a smaller one. Then you'll need some stitch markers. These are from Dawn of Twice Sheared Sheep, and she has some really beautiful stitch markers. These are good for crochet because the little hook is open and yet they're tight enough to stay on. So definitely recommend using those. I like to mark my increases and I like to mark the beginning of my round. So 3 is good, and if you have 2 for your increases that look alike and 1 for your beginning of your round, that's good too, because then you'll always know which one you're on. So I'm going to just get you started on the toe part. Pretty much we start here, we increase, and then when we get as wide as we want to go, we just keep going and around with the same number of stitches until we reach the heel. Then on the heel part, we are going to only work with the half of the stitches, and now we're working on flat rather than working in the round. And we are going back and forth, decreasing till we get to a certain point. Then we increased, we folded it in half the wrong way and sewed our sides up. Then we flipped it back out and we had it looking pretty much like everything but here. Then we started and worked in the round again till we got as tall as we want. The pattern's written for just little short ankle socks, but you can do them as long or as short as you would like, as tall or as short as you'd like. Then when you get almost to how tall you want, we switch to Tunisian simple stitch to put a nice little cuff on them. I'm just going to show you just the basics. If you've never worked on Tunisian crochet increase and working on the toes, you are going to crochet however many you are making for your beginning. And I will just do 8 here for simplicity. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we are going to work on the top row, then we are going to turn it around and we are going to work across the back row, front and back loops of the stitches. So you are going to be working across, pivot, and working on the back just for that first one, and then you're going to be working in the round until you get to the heel. The first round is a little bit tricky. Counting really helps. So you first have to work your foundation row. So we're going to pick up each and we're going to have to count. So there's one, we're not going to count the loop here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. This one is our knot. And so it is best then if you have another ball of yarn to do your return pass with. So you're going to just turn it around, hook in your new thing of yarn, and we are going to work our return pass like we do in thing. Leave yourself a yarn tail so you can tie it off later. Just go through the first one, then we're going to pull through 2 at a time. Now we are going to go flip back around to going forward and try not to get that first loop too tight or too loose. You'll have a hole. Now we're going to pivot and we are going to work in that same one but on the front loop. And if you don't know, count from the other side and then you can find it a little bit easier. But there's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 7 right there. And we are going to put in, it doesn't really matter exactly where, try to find that front loop, but then the other thing you'll want to do is find the right yarn, is to pull one through there and make sure you're not leaving a hole. So that works fine because you're not leaving a hole. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then we got to turn it around and work it. So now we know we've got the number that we need, and that'll just be, and we're still pulling through just at 2 at a time because we're not at the end. And that'll just be different depending on which size of sock you're making. So now you should have, I believe, 14 stitches, whatever your pattern says for the size you're doing. Just put that to the back. Now we're going to work an increase. You may want to, we're going to skip when we turn to work around on this side now. We are going to skip the first vertical bar and start in the first stitch here. We're also going to work them across according to the pattern, and then we are going to increase. So I would, I'm just going to talk you through this part, but anyway, skip the first one, put your work a Tunisian stitch in your first one, and then I would put a stitch marker on that one so that you remember that that was the first one of the round, because counting is going to be help you remember where you are. So there we go. We got a pretty one, pretty stitch marker. So you are going to count the numbers that you need to count, and then when you get to the number where you need to work an increase on a stitch, you're going to work it before the stitch. You're going to work it up here, and you can watch my how to work a Tunisian crochet knit stitch increase video, but you're going to work one in this stitch here, the horizontal stitch, then work a Tunisian knit stitch through this stitch, then you're going to pick up a stitch through this one. So you increased, Tunisian knit stitch, then increase, then you're going to turn around and pull your return pass through like working in the round, work again, and on that Tunisian knit stitch that's in between your 2 increases, I would put this another stitch marker so that you know where that is. Work that one, then you're going to work across here and work an increase, and then you'll be back to the beginning of the row, and then you're going to keep going and working increases. And remember, at the end of the row after the first increase, you're always going to have a few extra Tunisian knit stitches to work before you get back to the beginning of the round, and that will make more sense once you start actually doing the crocheting of the pattern. So we walk through the pattern. That part that we were just working on is for your toe here. You may try your sock on as you go to make sure the width. Remember, yarn stretches as you wear it, and that's why you want to use some yarn that has a little bit of nylon or some memory in it. And you are going to work that. This is all in the round, going around, just round and round and round until you get to the heel part. And then we work in the flat, we decrease, and then we increase. And I will insert a picture and show you what that looks like. And then you right side it back out. And you start working in the round again until you get to the cup. And that is how you work up a pair of some cozy knit stitch Tunisian knit stitch socks.